Hi guys, welcome back to our channel, the #1 place for people who love design, art and all things creative. I'm Jacqueline and I'm an interior architect and designer here at D&B. In today's video, I thought that I'd show you my floor plan process whilst I'm designing a new project for an apartment in London. This video is for anyone who wants to learn how to draw a floor plan from complete scratch, or for any designer and student who just needs to jog their memory. Drawing architectural floor plans are definitely something that you refine over time and you definitely develop your own style. So today I'll be showing you how I draw my floor plans by hand and also how to sketch a professional architectural draft. So if you're interested, let's jump in. So the first thing I do before doing any drawing whatsoever is put together a site analysis of the location and the site, which includes photos, sketches, a diagram, and of course we need all the measurements of the site. Once I've grasped a solid understanding of the site and location, I then move on to the next stage, which is zoning and diagramming. I think that before you go ahead and draw a concise floor plan, it's much easier to start off with basic shapes and do things in a blockier way. Let me show you what I mean. I like to draw out the rough shapes of the rooms of my building, and don't worry about doing proper wall thicknesses or anything, we're just trying to sketch out the rough proportions of the space. Once that's laid out, I think about what each room's function will be and start to map them out in the form of a bubble diagram. And in all honesty, this is about my 4th zoning diagram. I like to do multiple versions of the zoning so that I can then refer to all of them and see which one works the best. Also, I like to use highlighter pens to do this, just because then the zones stand out clearly. However, you can use any form of pens you want to. I just find that by using colours, it helps you to quickly identify the different spaces and their functions. If you want some more inspiration, I would type in zoning or bubble diagram or programming into Pinterest for a clearer understanding, and you'll also be able to see how other people like to stylize their drawings. Once that's done, I add all of the connecting routeways onto the diagram so that we can highlight how users will enter and exit each space. If this were a larger project, I'd probably do a circulation diagram as well, just so that I could see the routeways in the space clearer, but because this is a small project, this one is fine for now. There are so many other diagrams you can do before starting your floor plan that would help you then to think about where to place the furniture and fixtures, such as looking at where light enters the building, zoning the project into public and private areas, looking at ordering principles, and honestly so many more, and I'm not going to go into them because honestly that could be a whole video in itself. Before I begin the plan drawing, I thought that I'd show you 2 really handy guides that I think are complete lifesavers, and they are the Architect's Pocketbook and the Interior Design Reference and Specification Book. I know they sound completely boring, and to be honest, they are. But what I love about them is that they have all the information you need to refer to when drawing an architectural plan. If you're not a designer, then these books will give you all the basic dimensions and information you need. And if you're a student, designer or architect, then these are really good to look back on for reference. I thought I'd show you how I draw my floor plans in 2 very different ways. And I think that I probably have to come clean and tell you guys that I don't really like to spend a lot of time hand drawing floor plans. What I usually do is create a rough floor plan sketch, then go straight onto my CAD software on the computer and then refine the floor plan on there. I don't use hand drawings as the main floor plans, I just do them for conceptual development, which is what I think most people do nowadays anyway. I don't want to make it out like I don't like hand drawings and that I don't use them, because I actually do spend a lot of time on creating interior renders for client presentations. But yeah, the way I do a plan drawing is very rough, as I do the majority of the floor plans on computer. As you can see, I've drawn the rough outline of the project, and now I'm going to go in and add the windows and some thickness to the walls, because it's important for there to be a distinction between the walls and objects that are not fixed. Then I'm going to go in with a thinner pen and start to play around with some furniture arrangements and fixed elements like the bathtub and toilets, etc. It's probably very clear to you guys as well that this is by no means to scale. Like I said, this is just a quick sketch of ideas that I'll be using for reference when drafting the plan up digitally, rather than in a refined final draft kind of style. To wrap this floor plan up, I also add a drawing title, compass that points north, and I also like to write the function of each space onto the drawing as well. So that's how I realistically draw my floor plan drawings, just a quick basic sketch that I can use later when mocking up the plan on my computer. However, if I had to draw a professional floor plan, aka quality readable plans, I would know how, and you're about to know how too. Like I said, personally I wouldn't go out of my way to draw a floor plan like I'm about to show you because 1, I don't really have the time, and 2, everything is just so much quicker on computer. But honestly, sometimes it's nicer to have a hand-drawn element to your work, and if you don't have all the fancy software, then this is the best way to put your concept across. Plus, clients love hand drawings too. So the first thing I do is create a border and put in a title block. A title block is essentially where all the company, drawing and client information goes, and I can do a whole video on how to make one if you guys want, just let me know. But I've already added those so that I can use that as a border to contain the drawing. Step 2 is to start drawing the building. And as this is an architectural draft, I am doing it in pencil so that I can check the dimensions 10 times over before I go over it in pen. I would absolutely not recommend going in with pen straight away if you're doing a final plan drawing, as more often than not, you will need to make tweaks. So an eraser and pencil are your best friend. I should have probably said beforehand that before you begin to draw, you need to decide what scale your drawing is going to be at. How are you going to fit a building onto a piece of paper to a precise scale? For this drawing, I'm going for a 1:100 scale on an A3 page. Maybe you're wondering, how on earth do I use a scale ruler? So I'm going to quickly show you that now. You can see that my scale ruler has 3 sides and 12 different scales in total. So each of these sides represents a conversion of an actual real life size. Let me show you an example of the side of a wall. Let's say you're trying to draw a wall that's 9.5 meters in length. Well, clearly that isn't going to fit onto a page, which is why we use the scale rule. So using the scale of 1:100, I'd look at the 9.5 mark and draw it onto the page. This represents the wall that's 9.5 meters in length, only 100 times smaller than the real life dimension. Make sense? Let me try and draw a chair as another example. The chair I want to draw is this one from IKEA. The width is 67 centimeters and the depth is 85. So now using the scale of 1 to 20, we mark on 670 millimeters and 850 millimeters to give an accurate size of the armchair. The larger the scale number, the smaller your drawing will be on paper. I find that using a 3-sided scale rule works perfectly because I've used flat ones before and they just slip and slide all over the page when you're trying to mark on your pen. Also, I like to use layout paper for my drawings as it takes the ink really well, and it's transparent enough to overlay a new piece of paper on top and make any changes when needed. I like an A3 size because it fits the drawing on most times, and if it doesn't, then I up my scale to 1 to 200. And also it's not too oversized where it makes it awkward to transport. It's also a big must to make sure that the floor plan has a north point / compass on the drawing so that we know the orientation and where the sun will enter throughout the duration of the day. Once I'm happy and I think I'm finished with the technical pencil outline, I will then go over it in pen. And I have to say, when it comes to the types of pens and paper you use when doing floor plans, you definitely should stick to quality paper like Layout or Bleed Proof and use professional pens. If you don't use specific art or technical pens, they will most likely bleed on your page. Also, the biggest benefit to using technical pens is that the ink dries almost instantaneously, which of course means no smudges when you move your ruler. And you don't really want to be doing all the drawing work just to ruin it with one smudge line. Can you imagine? If I'm completely honest, I was going to use my Staedtler technical set, but turns out they are in much need of a clean. So instead I'm using these Pigma Micron set of fine liners that are also very popular. And I've linked all the equipment I'm using down below in the description for you guys so you don't forget. The key when using pen is to make sure that each building element has a different line thickness. This technique is crucial. There are so many reasons why we use different line thicknesses, such as adding depth, creating clarity in the drawing, and establishing a hierarchy. For example, usually the thicker, darker lines are used for things that can't be moved, and the lighter, thinner ones are things like furniture or decor, so things that aren't fixed. So now that I've established my line hierarchy and which pen sizes will represent what drawing features, I'm going to stick to it and complete the floor plan in pen. I always start with the exterior walls, which are the thick lines, and work my way down, so I'll do the interior drywall and balcony railing with a slightly thinner pen nib, then so on and so forth until the furniture. Another quick tip when drawing things that are overhead, like right now I'm drawing the kitchen cabinets, they should always be shown with a dotted or dashed line. And I'm also using a 005 point fineliner just so that it's really faint. The next thing I need to do is give the walls some dimension, and the way I'm going to do that is by hatching. You could also just colour the wall structure in black to give a distinct edge, which in architecture terminology is called poché. Sometimes people also like to simply draw the walls showing the texture layers as they would be in real life, and I use this method on my digital plan drawings actually. But my personal preference is to use a hatch to suggest what texture certain walls are. If you're confused as to what a texture might look like, honestly there are so many examples online and they never really change. These are just a handful of examples of common building materials in their hatch style. Brick and concrete I have always seen drawn like this, and some of the other ones I've seen variations of, like glass, I've seen drawn in multiple different ways. Anyway, if you're unsure, then Google is your best friend, and those reference books I mentioned earlier have different hatch types in them as well. If you're going to use a mixture of different hatches where it might look a bit busy, then you should probably add a key to the side of your plan drawing as well, just to show which hatch equals which material. Speaking of keys, you should of course have one to represent to the reader or the client what each thing you've drawn represents. And there are 3 preferred ways of doing annotations: simply by writing directly onto the space, or using leader lines, which are slightly angled annotations that connect to the plan. These are quite useful when the plan is small and there's not much to annotate, so that your drawing doesn't become too clustered. Or using numbers and then corresponding them with spaces in the drawing, like I've chosen to do today. And honestly, this is my favourite way to annotate just because it keeps the floor plan uncomplicated to interpret. Also, you'll find that on architectural drawings there's usually only one type of font used, which is the Tekton font designed by the godfather of architectural drawings, Francis D.K. Ching. It doesn't have to be like this to an absolute T, but usually you'll find it's a sans serif capital typeface just because it's the most understandable to read. With floor plans you would also add dimensions onto the drawing. I would draw all the dimensions for the walls, furniture, fixtures, but I would definitely do them on 3 separate pieces of paper. Definitely don't mess up your lovely floor plan you just sketched out. And the easiest way to do that is by using a piece of layout paper and tracing over the original plan drawing you did beforehand. That's very time consuming, which is why most of the time I do it on computer, but by doing it by hand you will get exactly the same results. Another thing I want to say is that there's no set rules when it comes to the drawing style or equipment you use when producing your sketches. Yes, there are certain requirements like having a drawing title, annotations, and a north point and so on, but the way you choose to illustrate them is completely up to you. as long as the plan is still coherent at the end. As you continue to sketch out floor plans, you'll perfect your own style and then use that in the future. Every floor plan I have ever seen has been different from one another in both big and minor ways, and that's because every designer has their own style. So don't worry about making your floor plan exactly like mine or one you've seen online, because the creative side of the drawing is all in your hands. I'm thinking of making a part 2 to this video where I talk about how I draw my floor plans on computer, so let me know your thoughts. I also have a whole playlist with tips for architects, designers and students, so I've linked that down below in the description for you guys. If you're new to our channel, then I just want to say welcome. On this channel we talk about interior design, architecture and so much more cool creative stuff, so if any of that interests you, make sure to subscribe to see videos just like this one. Leave me a pen emoji down below to let me know that you guys enjoyed this video or learned something new, and if you liked it then please give it a big thumbs up, because by doing that you actually really help our channel to reach even more people. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching again, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!